Welcome back to another episode. I'm Jason Rinker,
Hi, I'm David Owens.
and this is the What Works podcast.
Just what works. We keep it calm, keep it cool. Keep it first. Kids feel safe, staff stay strong on the turf. Call us.
So complexity. We're talking about Uncomplicate today. There's usually a buildup.
Mm-hmm.
What causes that? What causes the buildup? And how do the systems become so complicated in the first place?
Yeah. I think, it's like it's a compounding effect. I think things get added on because they're needed. And we assume that everything that has been added on, one, was needed in the first place. Two, is still needed. And three, we add so much on that we don't even have the time to go back and see if we need to cut anything out. Right. And so the job begins to become more work because maybe we did add some things that were needed, but without removing the things that maybe no longer are or maybe never were in the first place. I think, again, when we're trying to solve for the problem, we put something in place to address every problem. When we're trying to implement a solution, then you're really just adding things that support and sustain the solution and don't address everything that is no longer happening because we've got a good solution, right? It's like trying to address every leak in a roof versus just, actually replacing the roof.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The underlying issue may be such that you just need a new roof. Now, obviously, sometimes it's hard to switch out a roof in a rainstorm. Sometimes it's hard to switch out a treatment plan while you're actively trying to do treatment with a kid. But the alternative is waiting for an absence of rainstorms. Right. And in this analogy, our kids have got enough things going that there might always be rainstorms happening or just around the corner. So what better place than now? What better place than here? What better time than now?
Right.
So, I think we have to also understand what we're doing it for.
Right.
Because it's easy for me to say, yeah, well, we should spend some time to optimize our systems and our processes because it gives us more time with our staff, more time with the youth that we serve.
Yeah.
And so if that's the rationale, you better find some time. Right? You better make some time. You better reprioritize. You better, plan some time to do it because I've literally had kids in treatment come up to me and say like, what do I have to do to get anybody to pay attention to me around here? Do I have to have a crisis too? Because we've got so much work to do that all we're doing is paying attention to the kids in crisis and all the other work that we're doing. And the kids that are struggling less are feeling less paid attention to.
Yeah.
And so we got to pull work out of or off of our plate, out of our processes so that we can make sure all of the kids are getting the time and the effort and the attention that they need and that our staff are too.
Right. And it sounds like the intention's there, but it's the execution and, just not really being aware of what's really going on in the milieu.
And I think this ties back to the principle that, is in the last episode we just did, just solve.
Yeah.
I think as, a former training manager myself, as an administrator yourself, that's where we partner with those frontline staff.
Yeah.
Hey, what do I ask you to do that the way you have to do it is way too hard?
Yeah.
Get that feedback, get that understanding. They may not have a solution, but we can partner with them to identify one.
Right.
And we can certainly partner with them to say, hey, you're part of the ratio. I get it. You can't really get time off the floor that easily.
Right.
Here's this solution I came up with. Does this help out?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're giving you feedback to let you know has this changed the temperature on the floor? Has this changed the process? Does this give them more time with the kid? Does this give them more time for shift exchange, to collaborate with each other?
Right.
That we want our staff to be as free to spend as much time with the kids as possible.
Yeah.
Again, staff didn't get into this to do paperwork. Therapists didn't get into this to do paperwork. I'm not saying administrators did. I'm saying they have to accept the burden of that because that's the role, right? But for sure, the residential counselors didn't get into this to do paperwork. They got into it to spend time with the kids, have fun. And so whatever we can do to maximize that time, they're happier, the kids are happier.
In Uncomplicate, we start asking a different set of questions. I know, like, what's necessary, what's essential. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. It's a different market, so to say, but this comes to some extent from the phrase, the kind of term minimum viable product, right? What gets it to market? What gets it into action? What again starts the ball rolling in the right direction?
Yeah.
So I think there again are things like safety or compliance where that minimum viable product is already sort of set. That minimum amount, that Uncomplicate may be more complicated, than we like because it has to be, because it's a regulation, right? Or at least it's harder to change because it's a regulation.
Yeah.
But within our agencies, within kind of our shift, we can do as much as we can to make that minimum viable product, so to say, the thing that gives us the most time back for relationship and fun and, treatment with the kids.
So how can staff start recognizing what's actually unnecessary then?
I mean, I think it depends on the staff, right? Like some staff are going to feel it innately, right? They're gonna recognize, like, man, I'm spending all my time with paperwork, right? We're writing reports. Now, I'm not saying, again, the documentation isn't necessary, but the more relationship time we have with the kids, we'll find the less documentation we need to do typically.
Yeah.
Right. Because the more regulated they are, the less we have to document.
Definitely.
I think others are going to be able to look at especially when you come in new to a team or an organization, it's harder once you're kind of like, well, it's just the way we do things. It's easier for us to overlook how many steps of a process there are when we don't have to think about the process anymore because we just do it automatically. I think that's another reason that it kind of builds up is it just becomes habit. It just becomes the way we do things.
Yeah, it's familiar.
So when new staff come in, asking them, not that necessarily they're going to have the best understanding of what your organization does or the reasons why they do it, but hey, let us know what processes seem particularly difficult to learn or to understand, and maybe start looking there.
Okay.
Because you want new staff to be able to explain and to understand and to learn processes as easily as possible. I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah. So we're starting to identify what's unnecessary, what's extra. Now we got to remove it. What does that look like?
I think that depends on the team that you've got, right? If you've got a team that is sort of living out that just solve principle, you might ask them to throw something together, right? I remember I worked at another organization, Maryvale, previously, and we were starting up a brand new program. And we had the opportunity and, the drive and the initiative to really figure out what did we want this program to look like from the ground up. So we did different documentation. We wrote up documentation that helped staff identify things that the kids were doing well that we wanted to see more of. Documentation is oftentimes set up to pick up on the things that, we want to communicate to staff that are concerns. But we decided and took the initiative to highlight different things. So I think if you got a team that's ready to take that initiative and ready to try and solve things, then you can give them a little bit of that freedom to do so, and they can come up with an idea, they can come up with a prototype, and they can come back to you and pitch it. If they need a little bit more support, they're a newer team, or they're just not quite there yet, or frankly, the organizational culture is learning how to give staff the freedom to do that. It's going to take a little bit more support, because telling someone to come up with a solution might sound like a setup.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like, wait.
Right. Right. You really like and honestly, when with whatever they come back with, you've got to approach it in a way that you're collaborating with them.
Right.
What were you hoping this would, accomplish? What were you hoping, what was the reason behind removing this? Where are we, is there a place we can still meet this regulation or compliance need? Like approaching it almost, again, like you're a collaborator. I know you're their supervisor perhaps, but approaching this with that just solve and uncomplicate process allows you to give them the freedom and the autonomy to really improve the program and maybe solve something in a way that you wouldn't be able to, because you don't feel the impact of it on the floor if you're not on the floor the same way they are.
Yeah, you definitely got to look at it with a different lens. Take that supervisor hat off for a second.
Yep.
Now, as you're stripping things away and you're coming up with new solutions, how do you make sure you don't lose what's important, though?
I think the easiest way to lose what's important is having people who are not impacted by the decision make the decision. Right. Yeah. So if it impacts the kids, getting their feedback on it. Right. If it impacts certain staff, getting their feedback on it. I'm not saying that it's a responsibility for everybody to have a voice and feedback in exactly what it looks like, right? Not everybody needs to decide the colors that are going to be used. Not everybody needs to decide the font, right? But if there's a part that they're impacted by, I think they should have a voice. I think they should have some feedback and some input.
Absolutely. So now as things start getting maybe a little bit more complicated, it's almost like the water's getting muddy. The complexity tends to feel safer. Can you talk a little bit about that, about all the different layers, the more steps, the more layers, more language?
Yeah.
So you're talking about the font. Like, it's not Arial,
Yeah, right. It's gotta follow our brand guide.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think, I've heard policies described as organizational scar tissue, right? There's a reason these things came up, but again, is that reason still valid, right? Yeah. And is it truly protecting or promoting what you want it to? Again, I think residential is a difficult world in that regard, because there are things that have to be a certain way because of safety issues.
Yeah.
And everything outside of that, in order for the shift to go as well as it can, it's really got to kind of be a little bit agile, a little bit fluid. Yeah. So we can't expect our staff to adjust to the minute and quick changes of the floor when they're expected to run the floor in very rigid and structured ways. It's kind of like the bumpers in bowling, right? You've got the bumpers there for safety, for learning, and yet you've got all the area between that to figure it out. Yeah. And I think we have to start working with our youth that way, because when we're no longer there as the bumpers, the consequences are entirely theirs. Yeah. And I think we're not helping them if we don't teach them how to navigate the difficult unknown. And so we also need our staff to model that by figuring out what is necessary, what isn't necessary, and how do we kind of adjust on the fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually poses my next question. Uncomplicate takes some discipline.
Yeah.
I mean, how do organizations work that into their process?
I think you can do that in a number of ways. I mean, I think ironically, you might want to formalize the process.
Yeah.
Right. That is one of those things you might want to be very intentional about doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's important enough that we like do annual spring cleaning of our policies and our procedures. We sit down and we look at, you know, a policy a month or every staff meeting. And hey, does everything in this still serve us?
Mm-hmm.
And does it still serve the purpose? Maybe this week and until next week, we think about, are there better ways we can meet the needs of, you know, the document or the process?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say protecting the simplicity of it, because that's one of the things that I really fell in love with this was sometimes the answer is right in front of your face and you miss it because it's out of focus. You know, you put your hand right here. You can't see your what do you call them? I can't even think. What are the lines on your palm called?
That's a good question.
But you can't see the distinct lines on your palm until it's out here. And sometimes the solution and just what works, it's right here. And we miss it, you know?
I loved your phrasing of protect the simplicity.
Yeah.
And I think to answer your question, whatever it takes is what you do to protect the simplicity.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not about like, oh, we don't want to do extra work. It's about maximizing the time with our teams and with our kids in our care. And so when something of importance is what drives it, I think it's easier for us to prioritize it. And it should be.
Right.
And I think, to your point, I don't know what these are called either. Yeah. But I
was going to say, that's not fingerprints, David.
Palm prints? Maybe.
Something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone comment below. Sorry, that'll be my YouTube thing for the day. But you're right. Like, it's so easy to lose sight of things in residential because there was one day where, you know, wearing like a tracking, a health tracking device. I walked 10 miles. Residential days can be busy.
Yeah.
Right.
You get your steps
They're not
in.
all that busy. You get your steps in. Right. And so you've got to find the time to prioritize it because, you know, some days will not be filled by things of your choosing.
Yeah.
Right. But the days that you do get to choose, you don't want those ones filled up with stuff that takes away from your ability to spend time with the kids or your staff.
Right. So in Uncomplicate, who's part of the process? Like, how do we get frontline staff involved?
The challenge is you've got to be open to feedback you don't want to hear. Yeah. Right. Or that doesn't feel good to hear.
Yeah.
Right. If you spend a lot of time putting a process together and somebody else is like, man, who thought of this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You definitely have to identify what's working and what's not. And you check your ego at the door, just like your luggage.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because again, the thing that should be driving this is delivering value in terms of time with relationship.
Right. Yeah.
And if it's not, then maybe it's something that you can identify we can get rid of or change, right? Again, just because it isn't delivering more time in relationship or more value in terms of clarity doesn't mean we get rid of it all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a necessary thing, but if an alteration could make it more effective, then let's do so.
Yeah.
And we don't really know until the person who's impacted by it is the one that's telling us.
Right.
Right.
Let's take STRTPs, for example. What role does the youth's voice play in simplifying these systems?
Yeah. I mean, I hope it happens, but how often do we ask once a kid comes in for their welcome, their intake, hey, how was that process?
Yeah.
Did you feel welcomed? Was it way too much? Was it way too little?
Yeah.
Was like making them part of the process, I think, again, all the time.
Yeah.
Looking at them as a collaborator, looking at them as a team member. We ask new hires, hey, how was that process?
Mm-hmm.
We ask people that we're supervising, like, David, what do you need from me? What are you getting from me that is helpful? What are you maybe missing from how I'm supervising you?
Right.
Or have things changed and you need something different? It'd be silly of me to think that I've got it all because I'm so great at my job. No,
Yeah.
like make sure you're great at your job by making sure they're getting what they need.
Right.
And not to say that, the kids will be able to exactly tell you what they need.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they can kind of give you a read of it, just like with
Right.
the staff and the process. Hey, I don't know what this needs to be,
Mm-hmm.
but it's taking way too long.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't know what this needs to be, but I feel like the prompts that for the SIR, like there still are things missing.
Right.
So involving the folks that are impacted by it, I think, is the best way that you can do it.
Right. Because it sounds like what you're describing is like a check-in, because a lot of times we end up going it's so easy to go from CFT to CFT because you
Yeah.
get so busy
Yeah.
in the facility. And just like you said, there may be you've got maybe 2 kids that are not in crisis all the time. So they're getting less staff attention. You've got to check in and find out what's working and what's not working.
Yeah. If your measure of success is one that you define, we're usually we're gonna want to be successful,
Yes.
right? We may be hard on ourselves. I'm not saying that, but we may also not know what does need to change
Mm-hmm.
because we're only seeing the process from our side, not the people who are on the receiving end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see that. When Uncomplicate is it's done well, what changes?
I think in that regard, it's not the processes. I think it's the prioritization. I think it's people are looking for things to get rid of so they can have more time doing treatment.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's to me what would signal success in implementing Uncomplicate
Mm-hmm.
is it's not streamlined processes, it's more time with the kids.
I was going to say, because what does it look like for the team? And there's more therapy being done. There's more
Yeah,
activities.
right.
There's more outings.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're less busy. It
Yeah.
means you're more busy with more important things.
Yeah, I get that. So Uncomplicate doesn't stand alone. It creates some conditions, everything that follows. When the team takes more time to simplify, how does it impact their ability to move into solving more? And that was a mouthful.
That's all right. No, I mean that I think what that looks like is you can start to solve things and get rid of things all in the same
At the
stroke.
same time.
Yeah. Because, a little bit behind the scenes, we put together our training, which you can find at whatworks.now or maybe right now at the bottom of this video or in the description, in the comments, whatever people say. When we were putting that training together, I was stuck on the trainings being an hour because I've been a training manager. And the agency that I worked at, we did in-person live trainings, and basically we did it in hour-long blocks. I was stuck on that because I was stuck on that, not for any real good reason. And you and David and Jacob, our media person, helped me work through that to Uncomplicate it.
Yeah.
Hey, what if we just structure the material differently?
Yeah.
What if it's 15-minute blocks? Because it's hard to get off the floor in residential.
Right.
It's hard to get an hour-long
Yeah.
training. even if it's virtual.
Almost impossible.
Almost impossible.
Yeah.
So what if it's 15-minute chunks?
Mhm.
What if instead of me writing the trainings in a way that they're an hour, what if we write it in a way that it's 15-minute chunks?
Mhm.
Because people attending 15-minute chunks is better than people not training an hour-long training.
Right.
So I think, again, when you've got the value that you're looking to provide as your guiding light, it's so much easier to find a solution and uncomplicate it at the same time.
I remember when we were going through that, and I was just trying to put myself in place of staff. And also as an administrator, you always get a staff coming back to you saying, hey, I just got this email saying I got to do this training. Can I do it at home on the clock, or how are we going to figure this out? I'll step in the ratio. You go ahead, go take care of it real quick. And it was like a light went off. I was like, is it that simple?
Yeah. I mean, it's silly, right? To think
It
that,
is.
oh, hey, all the trainings that we put together are put together in a way that make it difficult to consume for at least the residential consumer, right?
Yeah.
The residential kind of frontline direct care consumer. Because it is so difficult to get off the floor.
Right.
You can get off the floor for 15 minutes, right? As an administrator, you can jump on the floor for 15 minutes and not lose kind of your whole day.
No.
If you've got 3 staff that need to take a 2-hour-long training, you got to schedule per diem or on-call staff,
Mhm.
or, it's difficult.
Yeah, it does.
Versus you can rotate staff out. Hey, you got 15 minutes. I'll be on the floor for a full hour, and I get 4 staff a quarter of the way through training.
Yeah. You could knock out so many other things like that.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking, past 2 organizations I work with, Wednesdays were overlap days for the shifts. That's the best day to knock it out. Everybody's there. Let's get training done.
Yep.
You already had your mandatory training in the morning. Now you have the afternoon.
Yep. And I think, again, it took me understanding what the value was that we were trying to deliver to uncomplicate the format.
Right.
I had to realize I was kind of holding on to something when it didn't meet the needs of the people that we were trying to deliver it to.
Right. Now, the whole uncomplicate, and there is a level of complexity. There's also going to be a mindset shift. How do we support people as they're going through this phase?
Yeah.
It's so easy to be comfortable in what you've been doing.
I think it's got to be from that place of collaboration, right? I hope I came from a place when I was asking, both you and Jacob to help me understand why I'm stuck up on this. That it wasn't like prove me wrong, right? Because that's not collaboration. That's like hierarchy in disguise, right? Right? Are you willing to challenge me? Let's see, right? Versus like, I don't know why I'm stuck on this, and it doesn't seem like it's working the way it should. Like, help me walk through my thinking, and maybe you all can point out where I'm coming to a conclusion that doesn't make sense any longer. And it was that I wasn't used to writing online trainings where you can make the time what you want to make the time. Like, I'm used to. I'm not going to do a break every 15 minutes in a live training. That would be weird.
Yeah.
I'm going to do an hour-long training, and I'll give you the 10 minutes at the end to fill out the survey, and you can get what's left of it for your break.
Yeah.
Right? And so I was stuck up on that. So I think, again, there is a level of complexity to it, but we've got to be there for each other to restructure the way that we think, because we accept complexity because we're not prioritizing the value of relationships. So I think if we're holding each other responsible for, is this delivering on what it needs and getting you back to treatment as quickly as possible, that's going to be the thing that feels less like criticism and more like collaboration.
Yeah. you're probably, I think I know the answer to this one, but what's one thing that we could do to start uncomplicating today?
I think slow down and take the time to pick what value you should be trying to deliver most on.
Mm-hmm.
Again, for treatment, it's relationships.
Yeah.
The more time you have to build relationships with the kids, the better the outcomes can be.
Right.
And so if there are things that are taking up lots of your time, that's your easiest place to start. That's your easiest place to potentially buy back time, right?
Mm-hmm.
To build a better system that enables you to provide better treatment.
Mm-hmm. And what's one thing that people should stop doing? It's probably something that's adding some complexity, layers that they don't need, without adding value.
Yeah. This is going to be a little woo-woo sounding, maybe a little silly sounding, but don't be so confident in your solution. Be more confident in your ability to find a solution. And what I mean by that is, just because you found something that works doesn't mean it's the best thing that can work the best it can.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying doubt yourself all the time. I'm saying continue to work to find the thing that best delivers value.
Yeah.
Right? That best delivers relationship and time for relationship. And remove everything that doesn't.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because even removing things that don't, you have the potential, I hate the word trigger, but you have a potential also for the youth who are used to the program running a certain way. Now there's a change there.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you're going to have to front load the kids. It looks different to them too.
Yeah. I think to truly prepare these kids for a world that isn't always structured well, that isn't always predictable, that doesn't always have rails that you can ride on, we've got to spend the time with them and demonstrate to them what it looks like to navigate the world.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's okay for us to live that out loud, so to say, to live that in the light is another way to say it. I think it's okay to tell the kids, hey, we're going to try and restructure activities to make sure that they're actually meeting your needs and that like we're getting rid of as much paperwork as we can. We're doing a lot of things to try and make sure this is the best possible experience for you and for staff that's possible. We have however you structure your program. If they come home and you have a 3 p.m. meeting, right, or a 3:30 meeting or a 4 meeting, depending on when the kids get back from school. And we want to hear how the morning went.
Yeah.
Not like, did you do good? How was the morning? We heard some things about the morning and the PM shift's not going to be like this. It's not that meeting. It's, hey, did we piss you off before we sent you to school this morning?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Did we wake you up okay? Is there anything that worked for you that we want to make sure we adjust for on the PM shift?
Yeah.
Did you feel like you knew what you were coming back to? Did you know what outing was going to be happening? Did you did you know what was going on? Making sure they're part of those systems to, again, give feedback in that. They're the ones that are impacted by it the most.
Yeah.
I think they're the ones that can probably tell you the easiest, maybe not the most effective in the solution, but tell you the easiest what they think is negatively impacting them.
Yeah. That feedback is so important. You'll find out how shifts are actually really ran sometimes.
Yeah.
Some of our kiddos could, they can get a lanyard and a key almost, some of them, because they understand how the programs run.
Right. But I think to that point, we want them to be able to navigate when that structure is no longer there.
Exactly.
So in relationship to uncomplicating the structure of a program, I'm not saying predictability isn't important, but structure that they stand no chance of replicating on their own in their own life, that serves us more than it serves them in the long term. It may serve them in the moment.
It's
and I'm not saying that it isn't necessary in the moment, but if the only way they can survive is to have really rigid, complex structure, we're not teaching them how to deal with the inevitable bumps and changes and unpredictability of life.
Right. Right. And when I just hearing that, I automatically think of a kid that just, 17 and a half, has their tilt meeting coming up. The world's about to be open to him. And is he ready or is he not? How prepared is he? And is he ready to address, I don't know, just a toilet that's overflowing? Like, how does he handle that?
Would they even show up to their tilt meeting on time if we didn't remind them or bring them down?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so early on, just like with young kids, like we were saying earlier, high expectation, high relationship, high support or direction. When they're learning to cross the road, you don't just let them go. You hold their hand until they're able to cross by themselves. You're standing next to them. You might still be prompting them or looking to see, are they looking both ways? And then you remind them. But if we're not aiming for that sort of capacity in them by only keeping the structure that is necessary for them to learn the structure to hold it for themselves,
right,
I don't think we're doing treatment the best way we can.
Yeah, it's more of a disservice.
Yeah.
We're sending them out unprepared.
Unintentionally.
Right.
Because I think it often is there because we're worried they won't know how to do it.
Right.
But they won't know how to do it for themselves unless they learn how to do it for themselves.
Well, it's just like cooking, and it's a life skill that we encourage them to use. It's an activity that we'll do. And I guarantee most people, whether your mom, your dad, or whoever was in charge of you was showing you how to cook your favorite dish, it took a while and you didn't make it right the first time.
No, you didn't.
And I think about it just like that. Like, it's going to take some time. You've got to invest the time.
Yeah.
We're going to be there for whatever allotted time that shift is. Let's not get the most out of it. Let's put the most into it. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
That you can choose to invest in your shifts or not. And the kids pick up on that. They know exactly that, you know what? Owen's trying to teach us something, and they look at you cockeyed at first because they're like, why is he trying to teach me? Because you're going to need to learn how to make some spaghetti, kid. That's why.
I would tell staff there's nothing wrong with wanting an easy shift. Teach the kids how to give you one. And so,
let me write that down.
Right. I think like the structure to teach them how to give you one changes along the way.
Right. It does.
And I think that it's okay to give those expectations and then kind of ask them what their own expectations are for themselves.
I think we don't do that enough. Again, and it's not that we don't want to. You're going to have somebody's going off. There's this over here. Another kid's got a doctor's appointment. And you're talking to that kid about how his life's going to be when he graduates, because everybody's in a different spot. You're spinning plates. Yeah. And this is where, again, the collaborative part comes in.
Yep.
Yeah. I see it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a dance.
Yeah. And, to pitch for our next episode, which will be on share, and the one after that will be on team. It is a collaborative across the team exercise, right?
Yeah.
Because, and share is not team. Share is about everybody understanding and being on the same page. You've got to know where each kid is in their process, and that process isn't static.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're moving along. And so you've got to know each kid well enough to know what do they need in this moment. It may be different than last week. And we're pushing towards next week, which will be different still. And so uncomplicating and pulling all of the stuff that we don't need to pay attention to, because we've got to pay attention to all that and be attuned to all of that, I think is so important, because that's the part of the job we can't compromise on.
Yeah.
you've got to know your kids. You've got to be able to be attuned to where they're at, because they need you to, know them better than they know themselves, because they're still a kid.
Yeah.
And being able to collaborate with them and coach them and guide them along the path that they're interested in going along, you've got to know what that looks like for them. And you've got to know what they need to hear and what they need to wrestle with in order to be able to get there.
And it's interesting because as you're working enough with the kids, you start to see some of their strengths that they're not even realizing it, and that responsibility I think we have as a staff to point it out to them and encourage them and have them do something that maybe involves that skill. It's so important to their confidence and what they're going to be doing and how they're going to be able to build on it. Yep. And I think we don't do enough of that. Mm-hmm. I think as an industry, and I think it's again, because a lot of it is complicated and we do have a lot of fluff of things that I think maybe do get more in the way and they're more of a hindrance and a help. We can definitely empower these kids and get them some more skills for when they do transition out, that they're more productive, they're more confident, and they're going to see some more successes and better outcomes.
Yeah. I think you touched on something or spoke on something that is really important. I think we also can uncomplicate our work with the kids by not having to point out everything that goes wrong. Point out some things that went well.
Yeah.
In relationship to like training and leadership and coaching, I remember hearing, if all you ever do is coach somebody on the things that they're doing poorly, at best, you'll have a mediocre staff.
Yeah.
Because you're not pointing out any of the things that they're doing well that you want to see more of.
Right.
So the same, I assume, would work for a kid.
Yeah.
If you're not helping them see their strengths that maybe you see and they don't, we're failing to help them realize their potential.
Yeah, I agree.
And those strengths are likely things that would make them, not that this is the goal, but again, better in the cottage, better on the floor, because they're able to bring those strengths in areas that, that build confidence, that affect those other areas too.
Yeah. Especially, look, that's probably the safest place they feel to be able to just be who they are. And so it's even at school, they're probably a different person, don't even do that. And they don't know that it's something that they can build on.
Right.
Pointing that stuff out is, it's also very interesting too. One kid that I had when I was over at Olive Crest, very good with organization. First kid I ever had, as soon as he showed up, David, I need to get a planner. You need a what? He was meticulous about that stuff, and he wanted to get a part-time job, and he's, in his mind, he already knew that there were certain things that he could do as far as planning. Let's do it. It was out of his age range, but he wanted to do it. The staff walked him through it. He was fine. He wanted to try though. I've never had a kid ask because they wanted to organize their day, their week, their month, their life. Yeah. Very interesting kid. Sometimes
it's just about going with the flow.
Yeah.
Right? Going with the thing that they're showing us, and we're not questioning it. We're just like, okay, let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
We'll support it.
I had to take some notes because I was like, what?
Right.
It was a digital. I wouldn't say I'm archaic, but I do like the physical. But the kid was great with how he wanted to do his alerts and his reminders and stuff like that. And he had full schedule. Student athlete, wanted to try to, stay on top of things. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Good. Yeah. I think if I had to leave this, episode with one thing, it would be similar to the Just Solve. This is an approach. This is a way of doing things. This is an ongoing thing, right? It's not about, productivity hacking. It's not about efficiency for the sake of efficiency. It's about delivering the best treatment we can, which often means minimizing the amount of administrative work it takes to accomplish that, and and running with the strengths that we as staff and that our kids have.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to make everybody great at technology.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you're great at things that I'm right. You're great at things that I'm not great at. Right? I may be great at things that you're not great at. That's okay.
But that's the collaborative. Exactly.
Right? And that's our next episode.
Right.
As always, David, I appreciate talking to you about this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good time.
And in case you missed the pitch at the middle of the episode, this is the What Works podcast. We have put together a training, Residential Treatment Simplified. It's 12 courses, 36 tools, all for free. Thank you, Department of Social Services. And it's available at whatworks.now. You can go ahead and search and find it that way, or you can click the link below. And that's our episode for today. Check out our next one. That'll be on our next principle, share.